Like when people ask me, do you believe in God? And I always say, what do you mean believe? And it's not even, for me, it's kind of like, do you believe in water? And they're like, what? Why water? Why do you, what? And I'm like, yeah. They're like, do you believe in water? Like, yeah, of course there's water. I'm like, yeah. And that is how it's for me with God or the divine. Like, look around here. Like, what is God? This is God. All of this. Like everything, in every sense, in every minute. And I get it. Most people are not connected to it. Or let's say they are not aware of the connection. They don't have the cultivation towards the divine. You need to cultivate the connection to the divine. It doesn't happen that you feel it and you can work with it and pull it out naturally. You need to actively work for it. Hello and welcome back for yet another episode. Today I've got something really hot in the pipeline. A topic I would usually not touch so easily, but I'm currently in a good mood for it. And today we're going to talk about God. But before we jump into it, I first want to congratulate two of my closest friends, Manuel and his wife. They got a baby, their first child, Leopold, and I just want to congratulate both of you here and tell that I'm super proud of both of you because I know you two worked through so much to get to the point in life where you are. Now I want both of you to know that anytime I think about how a marriage I would like to have myself one day, I think of both of you. And I just want to let both of you know that I really love you. I'm looking forward to seeing you soon. Okay, so that had to be done. I just love them too much to not do this. Today we're going to talk about God. And for most people, this is quite an interesting talk because they never have really a connection to it. Like nearby here is a hostel where I like to talk to different people from time to time. It's very interesting because you can always learn something. But most people I meet there, to be honest, I would call them empty. And I call them empty because they lack a lot of purpose in life. I mean, usually people go to a hostel like that if I guess they're a bit looking around the world. But I also saw it not a long time ago when I was for business in London. And I walked the streets for a while and I looked in the face of the people, how they looked like. And they were all sour and looked very grumpy and worn down and like really not happy. And I don't know, for me it doesn't matter. Like I'm connected to what I'm gonna explain to you in a second. I'm connected to something I could call the divine. And I'm radiating. And even if the world is going to shit around me and it's raining and horrible and it's cold and whatever, like I'm radiating. I'm blooming in pain and suffering because the power I get is not from the environment. It's not from anything else than being connected to life itself in a deep way. And I want to share this a bit because out of that comes actually the sense of God. And I want to open up this access to a lot of people like you because many people can't understand that, what it means and how absolutely important it is, especially today, since currently the West is more or less falling apart. If you look at it, the West is falling apart and it's in large falling apart because their values go away. If you look at it closely, Germany, for example, or America, it's strongly falling apart. And one of the main reasons for why it's falling apart is because out of God arises a sense of values. So the sense of God and the sense of values are connected. If you don't have them, if you don't have something like that, you're in deep trouble. And I'm going to go into that too in a second. Let me just note it down. That the sense of God is super crucial for countries in that sense. So where does the sense of God come from? And there are different approaches to it. And the best approach you can usually get is through a religion. So religions, what they actually do is you are born in life and you have no clue how this thing here works. There is no manual for life, right? You can do anything you want. But some things are pretty bad to do. Why? Because they screw up your life. And you can push that to a certain level. But if you overpush it, and I told you that before, you might never return. There's game over. Even if you stay alive, you might never recover from the trauma you caused to yourself or to other people. So that is why it's super important not to play with the boundaries. I like to do that all the time myself. That is important, otherwise you never learn the lesson. But on the other side, you may not stretch it too far, because if you, in such a sense, overdo it too much, you can gain traumata so deep inside of yourself, like narcissistic personality disorder. When that is really deep, you're done. You'll never return from it. No chance. Next life. You wait until you die and then next round. So that is why it's so important to have that in your mind. Now, the sense of God comes from being present. Just being here. Not going anywhere in your head or anything, but just being here to breathe, to feel how you breathe, and to just observe your environment. To just observe how things go. And when you observe, you learn. And you don't try to judge in the meantime. You just observe how things go. You see, okay, that person does this. Okay, they have trouble. They don't have a good life. That person does that. Okay, works better. You just observe. You just try to learn from that. And like I said, you can learn a bit quicker and more efficiently if you study a bit the philosophy of life in different religions, or, like I said, in different practices. But one crucial piece for me is always practice is important. So being present is the key ingredient, but it's not just being present. It's that you are present, but you need to be present in practices which further interweave you with life. For example, the Taoists, that teach a lot of practices like not just meditation, sitting meditation, standing meditation, where you essentially do standing meditation and you then later incorporate movement. So what the Taoists do is they start with stillness, they connect to the divine energy, and then gradually they add movement to the practices. And what they try to do is, out of the stillness where you can easily grab more this peace and harmony and understanding, you try to speeden it up over time into martial arts, that in the end, you have this divine grace in high-speed motions and head-on. So the really difficult part is actually usually not getting into stillness and discovering love and peace and all of that in that, but it's actually translating that later on into real life and applying it. And that is why it's so crucial to practice actively, all time, every day, and work on yourself in that. And what I'm saying about that is, for example, you might read the Bible every day. Or, like I said, you might do physical exercises every day, which ground you and connect you again to yourself. So these are some important pieces. And religions have outlined that. And one important thing I also like to mention is religions, true religions in their core, never are religions. And what do I mean by that? That is unbelievable, right? If you go into a church and you go there and say, please God, like, do something for me, like, heal my illness or whatever. That is religion. Like, you ask someone for something, and whether you get it or not, like, it doesn't work like that. Your obligation is to do something for the opposite side, and for that, it will come automatically back to you. So I really liked it about Judaism a lot, because they see it like that more clearly, that they are like, it's not about what God can do for you, but what you can do for God. And by that, you get rewarded. Okay? And that is a bit how it works. So if you are helping people around you, they might help you too more. So that is, for example, one thing. And that has nothing to do with religion. If you just think about it, I help people and they easier help me. Just a few days ago, I gave a friend, I had a nice day with her, good tea, and it really helped me. And I just gave her a necklace for it. And she was so happy about it. And this this is how it works. If you give, you get back. And the bond gets better. And it's the same with your neighbors, your friend, your partner, or whatever. So that is these practices, these lessons essentially they have nothing to do, first of all, with any religion. And that's why in its core, religions like Taoism or Judaism and so forth, they are not religions. They are practices. They are best practices assembled, usually also in stories, so you can understand and learn from them. And they might be a bit more difficult to understand, more or less. Like the Bible never worked for me in younger years, to be honest. I'm discovering that now slowly. But that is essentially how it all comes together. So religious practices, or I would say practices out of religions, they are actually kind of trying to teach you best practices. And integrating these step by step will yield a much better life for you. And that is essentially what it is about. And it's so beautiful for me because you can find so much value in that. And it's not about, like I said, what something can do for you, but you need to be active. Being active is, for example, a divine quality. People always confuse that, and I told that before, that the Taoists have the principle of Wu Wei. And you could translate it at best maybe with don't force it. People usually say yeah, there are so many bad translations. But yeah, don't force it. And but not forcing it does not mean that you are passive. It means you need to be active. You need to be proactive. It's like dancing. You need to lead it. Like if you don't lead it, nothing happens. So you need to get going and going and going and do things and try to guide it with grace and elegance. And I told you that also in my video about swordsmanship, that it's the same with a sword. You need to guide this sword with elegance and place it precisely. You don't go around and you hurt yourself or others. So that is really a bit this divine grace which you need to put into your actions. And I really, really appreciate this lesson. And you will never be done. But with every little piece you integrate more into yourself, you'll get a much better person. For example, one is just be honest. And just recently, I encountered a situation where I had the opportunity to lie. And I thought about it, how it would be to lie or to just be secretive about something from me. For example, I crashed my car a while ago. And I could be secretive about it and just make stories up or just don't tell anybody anything about it. But it feels much better actually just saying I crashed my car. And it was totally my fault. And that is fine. And that's how I keep myself accountable and how I don't come up with stories that I or create an image that I'm something greater. Because by that, I just say what I am and I am what I do. And it happened and that is it. I learn my lesson and I move forward. And I really recommend doing that, for example. And incorporating that as a habit is, for example, another thing. And it has nothing to do with religion. So how do we get to God out of all of that? Out of these very different pieces. And it's quite beautiful because when you think about it and you start integrating these pieces more and more, then what actually happens is that kind of like a form of love arises. You feel very loved to your surrounding, to people around you. Things get much better for you. Life runs much better all of a sudden. You have better connections to people. You figure out that in business, all of this helps too. It's a bit more of a combat battle still, but for example, that still helps. So you get this sense of, wow, with every one of these lessons I integrate, I get better and it feels like someone is teaching you. And that is out of the sense of teaching or being taught and guided. You realize that it feels like someone really wants you good and is trying in their best way to teach you your lessons and make you a better person. And that is where a bit the sense of God then all of a sudden arises from all of these practices. And you learn it also from, I studied under God himself, I always say, because I suffered a lot in my life. I had enormous suffering on my path. And I had to fight internal traumata and all kinds of demons. And at one point, I was on my way to become probably a narcissist myself. It was enormously strange. And one of the lessons I learned, which is one of the easiest guidelines I can give you, is if you suffer, you fuck up. Okay? So if you suffer, you did definitely something wrong, no matter what. But there's a lesson to be learned if you suffer. I told you that in one of my previous episodes. And these moments where you suffer are most appreciative, because in these moments, this divine grace comes and tells you, you gotta learn something. This is not right what you did. You can get better than that. You don't have to suffer if you figure out what it is I want to teach you. So learning through suffering is more or less the core essential of connecting more to the divine and overcoming that and really, really integrating these lessons. And it's very hard because sometimes we suffer from, I don't know, a breakup, and this might carry on for a very long time. And in parallel, while you suffer, you need to integrate the learnings out of that breakup. So it's a burning and very hard sensation to fight forward for that. But it's very rewarding afterwards. So you need to keep going. You cannot afford that. So that is why I always say the divine burns away your weakness when you suffer until you learn your lesson. Like, you don't stand in the fire, but it burns away your weaknesses. And that is quite graceful that you get this, that you really become a better person after a while. And what do I mean with a better person? Because just recently a colleague of mine, he said, like, nothing really improves. He has this feeling of relativism, nothing, it's yin and yang, it goes up and down and nothing changes. And like, it's a horrible sense if you're in a position like that in your life. Because no matter what you do, it doesn't feel meaningful. But then on the other hand, I can give you an alternative, which I discovered for myself. And I had good friends over the years. And I don't know what I did to them. But even to those friends, I'm not connected anymore. Because like also they are far away. They still reach out to me regularly and want to connect and would like to see me again. And that doesn't happen, I guess, if you didn't do something really nice. I still wonder what. Love you out there, guys and ladies. But yeah, that is just something good. Like, I must have done something which enriched their life so greatly that they feel this love. And I believe that this really made a better world. That actually incorporating these principles of the divine into my life and working on myself so hard actually really improves the life of everyone around me. And it comes down to you becoming a vessel. And oh, my dog is scratching. You become a vessel of the divine. And I love that about Judaism especially, because they really focus on that. That the divine, like you could say you connect to God, and you connect to this divine energy. And you try, the better you get at connecting to it and sucking the energy out, you can pull it down and you can spread it out to everything and everyone around you. And you can give it to people. You can give it to them around you. If they're down, you can approach them and you can change their energy and influence it and help them guide themselves better. Like your energy, if you have a ton of energy, if you have tons of energy, divine energy, and you're always connected to it, you can spend it. It's like unbelievable. People don't even have a fraction of the energy if you're not connected to the divine. The divine is an enormous reservoir. The Taoists say the same. The Tao is essentially boundless. If you can really connect to it, it's boundless. You can pull down energy over energy over energy over energy, and you are unstoppable, right? And the core sense of Judaism is, for example, to do exactly that, to pull down this divine energy and spread it on the whole planet and spread it so far out and just create a better planet by that. And that is so beautiful. And that mission. And I talked to a rabbi just yesterday. Was very nice talk. And he also said to me, which I didn't know exactly, that the goal is not of Judaism to make, for example, non-Jews like me to Jews in that process, but kind of, this is a free translation. I don't have the exact words anymore, but to kind of make persons to the best version they are to spread kind of this energy. And if they are not Jews, that is entirely good and fine. And I just love that, because that is essentially what it is about. To improve life for everything and everyone around us by working hard on ourselves. And there comes a deep, deep sense of purpose out of this. To really, really give it all, to give the world a meaning and improve it through that. And you see, when you connect to the divine, now you have values. Because you know, okay, if I just go around killing people, I'm in deep trouble. Because then people hunt me down, and it's a horrible scenario. You create so much suffering. And as I told you before also, you and other people are never separate. You cannot separate from them. So if someone is next to you and suffers, you suffer. So you have a shitty life if you make someone else suffer. So that is essentially also not what you want. So it's really in your greatest interest to do this, to better yourself, to be connected to the divine, and to pull down this divine energy onto this planet and spread it out as much as you can. And I did that now for the last 14 years, basically. And I did that alone until I met one of my martial arts brother, with whom I formed now the Circle of Cultivation. I'm going to tell you more about it. We're just preparing some things. But yeah, but ever since then, we've been basically alone. And both of us more or less also on their own. So it's kind of, it feels like wandering the desert, because no one supports you. You don't get money for your purposes. Nothing like that. You're just on your own. But you know it, kind of, that it's the right thing to do. Because you're connected to the divine. Like, we have abundant energy. We have infinite energy. Whatever we want to do, we just do it. We don't care if someone supports us or not. It's nice if we get support. But if not, that is status quo normal for us. We don't care. We have so much purpose. We just walk forward and just do what needs to be done and crush everything in our way to get it done. Like, in a nice way. Like, not in a non-nice way. Like, you need to hit it hard, I would say it. Right. And that is how you really pull it off. When you actually don't even need support. When it doesn't matter, really. And that is something you see strong also out of the Jewish community. As you see, I'm studying Judaism currently a lot. That they have the strong sense of God. And for that, they don't need so much support, really, from outside. Because they have their purpose. They just feel it. I won't go into the politics at the moment. Maybe in another episode, I'll give a bit my soul to it. But yeah, just that you get that sense a bit. Now, pulling down that divine energy gives you purpose. And when I walked the streets of London back then, that is exactly how I felt. Like the divine energy I have is always plugged in. For me, the sun always shines. I'm always thriving. I'm always going strong. Even when I suffer, it gives me energy, endless energy. And that is really, really, really unstoppable if you feel like that. It doesn't matter, you still can get killed, obviously, but you just get it. Like, no matter which direction you want to go, you just go. It doesn't matter what's going to come. You just have this faith that everything is gonna be fine on your way. And one thing which really aligns with that for me is the name Israel. And I'm not talking about the country, that is a different story. But in the Torah, actually Jacob was renamed Israel because he wrestled a whole night with God, as it is said. And as such, that name change came. So the name Israel is more or less coming from Jacob facing God. And that is essentially what life is. When you have this suffering, this pain, that you face God and you wrestle with him a bit, but don't challenge him too much. Then it's game over again. You know, he can send you flying if you challenge him too much, but you can wrestle with him. That is important. You need to wrestle with him. Otherwise, you won't learn. You know, if you just stand on the sidelines in martial arts, you will never learn anything. You need to wrestle a bit, you know. So, and then you learn your lesson, and he prevailed. And that is why he was later blessed by God for wrestling with him and got the name Israel. And this is a beautiful story because that just explains so much of life as I witnessed it, that even when I get hardship and pain and suffering, I thank the divine for the chance of becoming a better person and accept the challenge and go forward with all force and power I have. And often I don't even know where that tunnel leads me. I have absolutely no clue. Most of the time I just know the direction. I don't know what's up there. I never know it. But I know that if I face that direction and you go it, and you go strong at it, and you give it your all, you're gonna become the best version of yourself you can be. You're gonna have the best life you can imagine. It's gonna be wild. It's gonna be sweet and spicy at the same time. It's gonna be like a song being played. That is really how I feel slowly about my life. It's incredible. It's full of action and changes and love and peace and wisdom and pain and just full of everything. It's like, sometimes the worst, best stories you could tell. I think someday it's going to be a big, big book if I write all of the things down that I experienced. So that is something I really want to give all of you, that you should cultivate that. And when you do that, these practices, and I might go more deeper into that in the future, that you're going to have a great life, you're going to have a great marriage, you're going to have incredible friends, you're going to have it easier earning good money. Whatever it is, it all comes. And it all comes from just practicing becoming the best version of yourself you can be. And that is double important for guys, because we are usually also the providers. But I would also say it's important for women. Every man, as in the Bible, is basically incomplete without a woman. I really like about that sense of the Genesis story, that the woman was taken out of the man. So the original human we were, which is complete by both, has been split up and separated. And the original human kind of can just be recreated by combining back and becoming the original human again, by man and wife combined. It's a very beautiful lesson to be learned, and definitely a lot of women help me get better in life. When women kick your ass, you definitely can learn a lot of lessons. But you need to kick them back. Right. So you get the sense of God through action. That is definitely what I want to give you. So sitting still around and praying and all of that passivity, it will never work. Forget it. That is not how it works. You need to be active. You need proactive. You kind of need to do things for God, and then good things just come. That is more or less how it works. If you just ask for things, you will never get really what you want. It really rarely happens like that. So last but not least, one thing I'd like to say still is, which is a very funny question when I talk to people, when they ask, do you believe in God? And I love that question because it makes absolutely no sense to me. Like when people ask me, do you believe in God? And I always say, what do you mean believe? And it's not even, for me, it's kind of like, do you believe in water? And they're like, what? Why water? Why do you, what? And I'm like, yeah. They're like, do you believe in water? Like, yeah, of course there's water. I'm like, yeah. And that is how it's for me with God or the divine. Like, look around here. Like, what is God? This is God. All of this. Like everything, in every sense, in every minute. And I get it. Most people are not connected to it. Or let's say they are not aware of the connection. They don't have the cultivation towards the divine. You need to cultivate the connection to the divine. It doesn't happen that you feel it and you can work with it and pull it out naturally. You need to actively work for it. But once you plugged in, it's like a stream of power endlessly. And another thing I would really like to tell you is, sometimes when I talk to these people who don't have the divine connection, who are confused, who don't know why they stand up every day, it's one of my favorite questions also to people. Why do you stand up every day? If you want to have a date, it's one of my definitely my date questions. When I meet a person, I just ask, why do you stand up every day? Why do you do what you do? What is the purpose? Where are you going? And I need roughly in the answer about 2 seconds to tell whether that person has it or not. And it's quite funny because the answer usually goes either, which is 99% of the time, yeah, I was thinking about, and you know already, at that point, it doesn't even matter what the person says. Because you can feel there's nothing. It's empty. I was thinking about him. Yeah, no, like, whatever that person does is confused. It's empty. They have no purpose. They don't know where they come from and where they go. They kind of drift along in life and that's it. And I would really hate it to have a life like that. But I know most people, they don't know better because they don't know it differently. Like someday, and I talked to a friend not long ago, I would love to unplug myself and give my plug to other people for a minute. And I can tell you, if you pull that plug again from them, they would fall a bit into a depression and sadness. Like for me, if I imagine I unplug myself, which I can do, by the way, but I don't like to do it, of course. If I unplug myself, it is very depressing. It's kind of like taking the light away from everything, like the beauty, and it's pure sadness. And often when you listen to interviews from people who come back to life after having died, which were reanimated, it's quite interesting that all of them, or a lot of them, tell about how depressing it is actually to come back to life from wherever they were. And that is exactly how I feel about it if I would unplug myself too from this divine energy. I would definitely feel more depression and sadness and all of that. And if you never been connected to the divine, that is fine, because you come from there and you have never had it. But once you had it, boy, that is a hard one to get out. And I think it's almost impossible never to have had a divine connection. It's almost impossible to never have had one in their life. Everyone has usually a few moments of enlightenment. But what happens is, most of us forget it. Most of us drop it afterwards and don't follow through with it. Don't try to learn the lesson. Don't try to regain it. Nothing like that. Most people, they drop it and that's it. They move on and live their meaningless life again. And that is just how it is for most. So you need to water that and build that bridge. And in the beginning, it's really hard because you don't know how that bridge exactly came to be and how it works. But as long as you have the will to build it, to get it again, to get a bit of this droplet of enlightenment, which is so fulfilling. Even a drop feels like an ocean coming at you of blessings. It's incredible. When you have that willingness to go for it, it will come. The mind, setting the mind in the right direction is already doing 90% of the work, because the actions will align if you have the intention in your heart and in your head. So that is one piece I really want to give you there too, that the intention of really wanting it, definitely wanting it, very precisely, very strongly and willingly, then you have a good chance of actually getting it, but not at any price, like I said. Whatever you do in terms of actions, it needs to happen in the area of the divine actions. So for example, if you cheat on people all the time in business, they will figure out and your business will struggle and go down, even if you made some quick profits. Do you understand? There is really something like karma, and it will screw you up. It will hunt you down eventually. So really be careful on that sense. There is game over if you push things too much. But if you push it a little bit or to some degree, it can be quite forgiving, if you learn your lesson on the way. I wanted to give you some access a bit to the understanding of God, where it is coming from. And for sure, there's a lot more to teach about that. But all of these episodes I'm giving you also, I want to tell you, are revolving around that core. That sense that we want to improve ourselves, and by doing that, this divine grace comes step by step more into our life and makes our life better, the life of everyone, and definitely creates a better world. And even though it doesn't look like it today, if you think back just a few hundred years, it was a way more terrible world with way more cruelty and killing and suffering than it is today. And while it is still not a really good world today, we still have a very long way to go. The direction is very clear that for as long as we don't give this up, whatever we are doing here, we are gonna get better over time, even if we have some setbacks from time to time, like the wars which are emerging now at the moment. It doesn't matter. We need to keep on walking, and we need to keep on spreading and working our butts off to get it better. And by doing that also, if you look at the countries at the moment who are suffering the most and breaking down, like Germany and USA and many other countries, what these countries did right, like many other countries too, is in the past there was the learning to separate religion from the state. And that is quite wise, because that leads to opposing views and suffering, because, I don't know, then the Christians don't want any others in the government, and then in the end, that never works out, because then you need to eliminate the people in the country. How do you, not give a voice to the people living in the country, which are just different, right? There's no other way. So that doesn't work. So putting out religion out of the government and giving the equal rights to everyone, that is the first part. But the problem is, if you take out God out of the heart of the people in the government, you'll end up with heartless, bureaucratic nonsense. And that is essentially what you see in the countries failing at the moment. They don't have that. They don't have people in the government with the connection to the divine and the grace of the divine. And out of that, especially, comes the feeling for morals and values. And the countries crumbling don't have that so much anymore. They are crumbling because they lack this cornerstone, this divine connection, this paradigm of sticking together and doing something and creating something and evolving and saying, I want to live in this place, and I want to make this place the best place I can imagine for myself and everyone. And the politicians just don't think in that way. It's just all this relative game of losing and gaining, and I gain and the other, I don't care if the others lose. And it's just so superficial, right? So please, even if you're not religious, you can understand that these values, and by practicing them and getting kind of something like a divine connection, it definitely makes the world a better place. It definitely does, without a doubt. Because all the places thriving nowadays, they have something like that. They have a sense of God in the government, in such a sense. It's so obvious if you just look at it. And I just hope that we can actually really gain that back in a lot of places. And I think it is coming. It's already starting now, but it is coming. And the world will definitely get to a better place in the future. But of course, now first we have to go a bit through a tunnel and friction and all of that. We need to make sure that we don't lose our connection to the divine, to put ourselves not above others in terms of absolutism, that we say we are more important, the others don't matter. It's all a relative game. You need to look always first after yourself, but afterwards, make sure that the person next to you is not drowning. Otherwise, they will pull you down too. All right. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed the episode. It's been a longer one and stronger one, but I had a lot of material in there, as you could see. And let's see what's going to be the next one. And regarding the project with Circle of Cultivation, my friend and me, we are going to host soon a new video course about internal martial arts, which he is already teaching and having on his Dao Monk website. I can put the link in the description, but we're going to migrate that to our new Circle of Cultivation website soon. So stay tuned, and we are going to have a lot more in store at the moment we're working on. So things are going to evolve and get greater and bigger. And yeah, it's going to be a wild ride. I'm going to let you more into the story unfolding at the moment in our lives. I love you all, and see you soon.